Friends, we are very happy to inform you that e-modules are prepared for B.Ed program in Telangana by the School of Education, Osmania University under Pandit Madan Mohan Malaviya National Mission on Teachers and Teaching Scheme MHRD New Delhi. It's indeed our pleasure to share with the teacher educators and the prospective teachers and get maximum benefit out of it. It's a first of its attempt by us. We continue to add many more such lessons to share with you all.
Good morning. I am Khaiser Banu, working as an assistant professor in Princess Dure Shehwar College of Education for Women. I welcome you all to the session which is e-module on the first unit of Pedagogy of English of B.Ed first year, first semester. Before I begin my session, I would like to tell you the objectives of this module. The prospective student teachers will be able to comprehend the meaning of language, familiarize with the nature of language, recognize the significance of language and its role in human life, promote awareness of importance of English language in human life. The student teachers will be able to reflect on the concept, nature and its importance of language in general and English language in particular. Before I begin my session, I would like to ask some questions which is like a brainstorming session. When I say these questions, you think about it. How did you learn to communicate? What is used when you communicate? What for we communicate? How do animals communicate? How do infants communicate? How do animals understand their master's instructions when they can't speak? Why do you think that communication is vital? Where does it stand in the development of language? The importance of sound. Where does sound stand in language development? Through which skill do you develop your ability to talk? Do we begin to communicate straight away? Which process is involved? How does sounds and syllables result in the development of language? Now, these are the questions which I have asked you. When I asked you, how did you learn to communicate? Right, we all learn to communicate listening to our mother. We develop the ability to speak by listening to our mother, to our parents, What did we listen? We listened to sounds. Through repeated listening of the sounds, then we try to utter the syllable. Syllables will result in monosyllabic, bisyllabic, trisyllabic words. Words resulted in phrases. With phrases, you could make up sentences and thus you started picking up language. And this is what has happened in any language you take up, in any region, the infant takes up language initially. And why do we use language, or what do you use to communicate? Certainly, we use language. The infants cannot communicate with their parents straight away. but when they cry, the mother understands that the child is going through some discomfort, whether he or she may be hungry, okay, thirsty, or there's some discomfort. The mother understands and pays attention to this child. Same way, when you might have seen, people who have pets. The pets follows the instructions of the master. How can they? It is through their instructions, the sounds, the signals, the signs which they give, they communicate. It is through non-verbal we communicate. Not exactly we require, language only as the medium to communicate. We do communicate with gestures, Only 25% of the language which is used in communication, okay, the 75% that we use to communicate is through our gestures and body language. And how important is language? Language is very important. Now, what are the various functions when you use language? You use language to discuss. You use language to talk to someone, to express your feelings. There might be a discussion on any topic, you use language. You use language to communicate. In every walk of life, language is required. It is required for your educational purposes. It is required. Every walk of life you require language. It's a gift for the humans. Humans are has the ability to use language. We are bestowed with the ability to communicate. So, we begin with sounds and then we are able to speak. This is how language development happens. So, now in a gist, if I give you what language is a rich, complex, rule governed, vital system. Its sum is larger than the units such as sounds, letters, sentences and rules. Child has an innate cognitive ability to acquire knowledge. Language is biologically determined system. Chomsky claims that children are biologically programmed for language learning. So, language has a very important social purpose because it is used for linguistic communication. Now, what is linguistic? Linguistic is a systematic study of language. Language can be used in two forms. The first form is spoken and the second form is written. Why is the medium of speech more important? Firstly, because speech comes first in the history of language community. Secondly, speech comes first in the history of any individual. We started speaking long before we started writing. Thirdly, speech as a medium of communication is used much more than the medium of writing. I hope you have understood the importance of language as a speech. So, language is our primary source of communication. It's the method through which we share our ideas and thoughts with others. There are thousands of languages in the world. Countries have their own national languages in addition to a variety of local languages spoken and understood by their people in different regions. Some languages are spoken by millions of people, others by only a few thousands. For instance, there are many states in India. Each state has its own language. We have Jammu and Kashmir, we have Kolkata, we have Telangana. For instance, I am just giving you the names of few. In Jammu and Kashmir, people speak Kashmiri, and in Telangana, we speak Telugu. Though each state, I give you another example. For instance, we take the example of Kerala. Kerala, we speak Malayalam. Okay. Hyderabad or Telangana is a state where we speak Telugu, and Karnataka, Kannada. Okay. The people of Karnataka speaks Kannada. So these are the varieties of languages we have in different states. So any business which could happen between these states, there is no language which could be understood by three of it. Okay. So here we have English as a language of business. I hope you have understood. Now the definition, there are few important definitions given by the educationist academicians. The first definition on language is given by: language is a symbol system based on pure or arbitrary conventions, infinitely extendable and modifiable according to the changing needs and conditions of the speakers. This is the definition which is given by Robbins. Sapir, he says language is purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions and desires by means of a system of voluntarily produced symbols. Jesperson has defined language as: language is a set of human habits. The purpose of it is to give expression to the human thoughts and feelings, specially to impart them to others. One more very important definition given by Barbara M.H. Language is an articulated systems of signs primarily realized in the medium of speech. Language by nature is fluid, never static, in relation of thoughts and feelings as well as forms. So language development is based on oral and oral system. So language development happens based on two systems, that is oral and oral system. So you listen and then you speak. Recent studies reveal that there are 1,652 languages and dialects spoken in India. So now we have three language formula in schools, wherein you speak about the first language, that is the national language, second language is the regional language, the state you belong to, you learn that language, and third language is the foreign language that we take up as English here. So there are various languages in India. Each state you go to, you have their own language. So what is the nature of language? Coming to the nature of language, language is learnt. Any language you take up, you learn it. It does not come to you automatically, you learn it. How do you learn? It is through listening, imitating, and if you wish to learn any foreign language, then you make deliberate efforts in learning their rules, vocabulary and other systems like the semantic, syntactic, morphological, etc. Language is speech, Why is it speech? Because you learn to speak first. You learn to speak, talk, communicate, use language in the speech form than in the writing form. Language is a system. In turn, you have many subsystems, like it deals with sounds, so it has phonology. It deals with words, then you have morphology. It also deals with the structure, then it is syntactic. It also has meaning in it, then you deal with its meaning, it comes to as semantic. So language is a system which in turns has many systems in it, and language is species specific. Any state, region you go to, they have their own language, okay, and they talk, they communicate in their own language. The next point is language changes. There is no static form, language is never constant. We don't speak the language as it was spoken in the era of Chaucer. English language which is spoken now is very much different from the language which was spoken at the Chaucer's era. Language is a skill subject. Now suppose most of the students will go to English medium schools, so they are proficient in English language. I mean to say, the students have pretty good knowledge about English. So these students, when they know the concepts of mathematics or the concepts of biological science, they can very well represent those concepts in their examination using English language. Okay? So English is a skill subject, and it is mostly used for communication. Language is unique. Language is governed by specific rules. You take up any language, you have rules. Like for instance, when you talk about English, you have a pattern of subject, verb, object. I am teaching to the students of Bachelor of Education. So it's a pattern where you have subject, which is I am, teaching is a verb, and the object is the students of B.Ed. Example, Nenu annam tintunna. Nenu here is subject, annam is the object, that's food. Okay. Tintunna is the action which is happening. So here in case of Telugu or any other regional language, you will not find the pattern as subject, verb, object, and the structure here is subject, object and verb. I hope you have understood the meaning, my objective of conveying the meaning that no two languages are similar. Each language is unique in itself. So this was the nature of English language. English is a skill language. Skill language is you have to practice it. You cannot automatically learn it unless and until you put in efforts, you try to speak, you will not get it. Same way, if you sit in, and for instance, swimming is also a skill. You cannot just sit and learn the rules of swimming and you can swim. You need to dive into water, you need to dive into pond and then learn swimming. Same way, if you wish to be proficient in English language, you need to speak out. Through practice, you become proficient in that language. Coming to the importance of English language. English language is universal. It is a universal language. It's a window on the globe. whichever part of the world or the universe you go to, and if you possess the competency to speak in English, then you can survive. So English is a universal language, in the sense the whole universe knows this language. English is the language of science and technology. You know, the science and technology, when you talk about, there are various developments which is happening, in every walk of life. You see science and technology, and this is happening of the language. So it is, English is the language of science and technology. It is exploding language. So whichever part you go, you'll be able to survive because of its surrender value. So it is a language of business, and there are better job opportunities when you have when you are competent in speaking this language, English language. Use of English increases the level in society. Suppose you are proficient in English language, you are able to speak, communicate better, you have better social status. It is the language of interstate relationships. Now, as I told you earlier also, there are many states in India, and you cannot have all the languages. Any person cannot know all the languages of the state, but English is spoken and is learnt, or it is the medium of instruction in all the schools which is there in all over India, which is spread all over India, and the students are having good knowledge about English. So if they are transferring to other states also, they can communicate and survive because their medium of instruction was English. Though they don't know the regional language, they can survive with the language they have learnt in schools apart from the regional language. And they also know, most of them also know Hindi as the national language. They will be able to survive. So English language is the language of court and law. Now you see, whichever, for instance, the cases which is happening, which takes up in the court and all, will take up English language. So it is the language of government, it is the language of the court, it maintains good connections. If you are having better knowledge of English, then you are better placed. Okay, so I hope your knowledge pertaining to what language is clear. Today we have dealt with the concept of language, how one picks up language, how each language is unique in itself, the various functions of language, the nature of language, the importance of English language. Thank you.